there, I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty. Today is May 18th, 2013, and there's a lot going on. We wanted to focus in this morning to just a couple of issues that we feel are really significant. And we wanted to talk about the IRS and some ideas about what's really going on. Just for a frame of reference, we have several articles here, and I don't know if you want to spend any time on any of them. But
Yeah, no, just in general, I think what we want to say is that um, there's something bigger going on here, we believe or suspect, than what I'm hearing from even voices like Alex Jones. Yeah, the Obama is going down, and there's other stuff that's going down with him. One of the big ones is the IRS scandal, the targeting of individuals, the Tea Party, etc. And previously, that would not have even registered on the radar. He would have gotten away with it. But something is happening. There's some kind of a power shift going on behind the scenes that's caused this to be highlighted. And it's going someplace. And I think the place that it might be going is the actual end of the IRS, because the IRS is just a collection agency for the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve's charter has ended, and there's all these rumors behind the scenes that we give some credence to that will soon be on U.S. Treasury notes and not on the debt instrument, fraud instrument called the Federal Reserve note. So that it may all tie together. This may be preparatory work for that. And there's just a lot going on. And what you can seek out and find is really only the tip of the iceberg, I believe, from in terms of what will eventually come out and where this is all headed. It's big, big, big.
for instance, how there are a lot of people, probably the people who listen to this video, and even to some extent people who listen to Alex Jones. There are a lot of people who are aware to varying degrees of what's going on, and who are aware of how evil the IRS and how it really is just an arm of the Federal Reserve, which in itself is not completely lawful. But there are a lot of people who, although they hate the IRS, I'm sure, along with the rest of us, not in a personal way, not the people in the IRS, but just the idea of how tyrannical it is, they don't know, they don't understand that their hatred of the IRS is grounded and has a genuine foundation in historical law and in a historical frame of reference.
Yeah, never forget that this idea is highlighted in the law by Bastiat. But the idea that when the laws become tyrannical and your conscience is not, then you have the duty to obey your conscience rather than the law. So, yeah, when the law becomes an instrument of plunder, as in the case of the IRS, you have a duty. And this blog that we're looking at right here goes over that in detail, and it talks about, hey, did you know the IRS is mentioned in Scripture? And here it is, right here. And when it's pointed out, you can see it. When it's focused on, it actually becomes clear. In the light of current events, when you compare the current events to the Scripture, yeah, it doesn't mention the IRS by name, of course, but the activities, the way it acts. Another thing I'd like to remind people of that you might have heard of, and I'm sure you can find it on the internet if you do an appropriate search, is that former KGB agents who defected to the United States back in the 70s and 80s, when they were asked to compare our society to what goes on in the Soviet Union, they would say that the counterpart to the KGB, their secret spy and enforcement organization for the government, is not the CIA, it's the IRS. That's the one that the people fear, in the same way that the people in the Soviet Union feared the KGB. Yeah, it's an instrument of plunder, and it is unlawful in the true sense of the word under God's law. And people are finally now beginning to be able to see it, and this blog is a great one for pointing that out. So we want to direct your attention to that. We really think that there are probably some key people in powerful positions that are believers that are helping to manipulate the current events, and that's a good thing, because these power struggles really mostly they're orchestrated, and we can't just stop pretending that they are. We have to deal with it on that level, because it's all about manipulating the masses by either truth or lies. And so you get the truth out there, people bite enough of the truth that they can chew on, and this is a great big chunk of truth that people are capable of chewing on, that does lead in the right direction towards liberty and setting our society, our country back on the right track to a constitutional basis, a basis in natural law, which is really what we're after here. So this is really good stuff. I would not be surprised if there was somebody like Steve Pachenik that was helping to orchestrate what really looks to be like a divide and conquer tactic used against the elites, because they are fighting with each other. And that also comes out in this blog, talking about the eagles. In this sense, the eagles are used in a negative sense, like vultures or whatever, but they're attacking each other. So this is happening. We're seeing the bad guys fight it out because because their territory is no longer secure. So they're fighting for their own territory, and while they're doing that, they're revealing themselves. And we, the people, are going to be able to take appropriate measures, including prison sentences, to deal with these guys. Very, very exciting stuff.
And typically in recent years, maybe over the last, I don't know, 2 decades, and possibly before that, but I wouldn't have been that aware of that, Christians have been, well, 3 decades, Christians have been very strongly advised by preachers to always pay their taxes. And of course, churches to some extent have benefited from the IRS, because a donation to a 501c3 is tax deductible. So a lot of churches have actually used the IRS and that rule as kind of a launching pad for asking people to give money.
Yeah. The church as a charity is a trap. It boxes you into the whole role of a charity as the government sees it. It doesn't enable you to function as a true church under the gospel. So, yeah, go with God's law before you go with man's law, because it's He that sets us free. And now is the time where we are going to be able to see where people stand.
So this view of the IRS as the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud. Christian leaders talking about the IRS in terms of it being a fraud, and that, you know, withholding tax, in some ways I just can't believe that people ever permitted that to begin, because then this verse is so clearly related to that kind of behavior. But it's a departure for Christian leaders to begin to highlight this kind of biblical frame of reference.
Yeah, in the Bible you have, and this goes beyond what's talked about here in this blog, but the constraint on the master over the laborer, or the owner over the laborer, is that he has to, if the guy's poor, you can take his coat from him during the day, but you got to give it back to him at night. And that's way, 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 way less than taking the guy's wages before he's ever seen them. So this is well beyond biblical constraints, what's going on here. Confiscating people's income before they've ever seen it. Yeah, no, not a good thing. And of course, we can refer you to the webpage, The Law That Never Was. Do a search on that, learn about the real income tax, etc. So it's all a big can of worms that is being exposed to the light of day. And I mean, hey, earthworms are good, but these worms are bad worms, and we want them to die.
They're like the giant worms and tremors that like all of a sudden pop up out of the ground and devour people.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, they do. And they're very scary. Yeah.
There are a couple paragraphs in this blog about, or a couple references anyway, potential for some kind of military intervention or some kind of significant shift. And along with the IRS being so much in the spotlight, we've been kind of taken by surprise after, some scandals that were really horrible, Fast and Furious, where literally hundreds of people have died because of that policy, that operation. And
covert black operation.
Yeah, and the press was virtually silent. And now all of a sudden, these things that pale really in comparison to Fast and Furious, at least in my mind, are front and center, and everybody's talking and pointing the finger.
Well, in some ways, though, with the background that we just discussed, the IRS and the whole Federal Reserve System is bigger than Fast and Furious. So that's true. But and it deserves the spotlight. And I think the reason it's getting the spotlight is because it can be used to extricate a whole criminal element from our government that's had its hooks in for a very, very long time. This blog by John Rappaport is a stunner. And he asks the question, who is suddenly telling liberal jackals to attack Obama? So we really have to wonder when we see all these guys, and he goes through and he catalogs Chris Matthews and Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert and all of the usual suspects as all of a sudden flipping and being against Obama. So at the very least, Obama is being cut loose as a fall guy because they don't want stuff to go any deeper. They don't want to uncover the mess any further. That's at the very least. I suspect something more serious is going on here, and Rappaport alludes to it when this possibility, when he talks about Hillary in 2016 and Benghazi Gate. It's very possible that these other scandals that in some ways are more minor may be trying to keep people from getting at what's going on, or what had been going on with Benghazi Gate. And that whole thing really, as you know, happened several months ago, right before the election, and of course it was covered up so that Obama would get his second term, and that may very well have been in combination with some other stuff, why Breitbart was murdered, etc. So the fact that this stuff is coming out now means that there needs to be some kind of a countermeasure to help suppress it, and that may be what the other scandals are for. But there's an even deeper level than that, is that the military are involved in and very highly motivated to expose what happened at Benghazi, because people's careers were ruined. Not people died. The SEAL team members who didn't stand down as they were ordered died. And there's extreme outrage about that, and there should be. But these other scandals may be an attempt to keep that from coming to the surface because of this military power struggle that's going on behind the scenes. So we want to raise the possibility that there may be military good guys along the lines of Steve Pieczenik, who are helping to run this offensive against the establishment in the press in order to bring the total exposure of the bad guys within the military, because when everything breaks apart, there's going to need to be some kind of a military restoring order type of thing, and we don't necessarily think that that's going to be bad. It could be very bad. The whole principle is bad, but in a time of unrest, it's almost going to be a necessity. So it all depends on how it's handled, and if the good guys in the military who understand liberty get the upper hand in this power struggle, then it could turn out very, very good. So we don't want to be so set against military intervention that we negate that possibility. This also echoes what Benjamin Fulford was talking about in his last blog, where he said that, hey, or maybe it was 2 blogs ago, that the military are very good at stepping in and then going back to their barracks when their job is done. So that could happen. And we just want to raise that as a possibility for you and help you to keep an open mind as far as there is a power struggle going on, and it does involve the military, does crystallize on Benghazi Gate and all of that, and be praying about that, because really how things shake out will be very, very crucial.
And if Nasara plays out as it's intended to play out, there would not be any disruption or any martial law imposed. But it's just that so many things can go wrong. These people have proven themselves to be evil to the point of being irrational and don't have respect for human life. So I suppose that there are a lot of different potential outcomes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of planning on the good side and no doubt on the bad side of people trying to see how they can either prevent or exploit the changes in culture that are almost certainly going to arrive when the financial system goes through this major shift that many people are aware it's going through or going to accelerate into. So yeah, we can't be naive and think everything is going to go according to the perfect plan, and we have to be prepared that there may be some disruptions and have to really tune up our discernment in terms of being able to see who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And it's not who the TV tells you, that's for sure.
Really?
No, not Fox News, not anybody.
Yeah, this is certainly a time when it's important to read and consider and listen to a lot of different points of view and try to keep an open mind for us all to try to be light on our feet and have a connection to our Creator that helps us to process what's happening around us and move in the right directions. Praying that you all will be able to do that. We thank you for being with us this week and hope that you have a great week coming up and that God does speak to you and that you are able to be without fear in this time, in this important time. Be ready to move in the direction that the cloud goes in when the cloud starts to move.
Yeah, I was just reading about that recurring theme of the Bible. And this week and always, remember to see the world the way that it really is. See yourself in it, not escaping from it. Walk your walk. You are the one you've been waiting for.